Today in Crazed Performance Repair, we're going to go ahead and do a quick belt change on a 2006 Equinox. Now, it's not a typical belt change because you don't just do the tensioner and pull the belt off. There's actually a motor mount that the belt goes around. So it is a little more challenging than most, and we're going to try and do it with basic hand tools, not using the fancy wrench, but I will show both techniques of doing the belt change. Stay tuned. So I have all the tools and some that I'm going to need to do the belt change twice, basically. I have what we're going to need for the basic tools, which is an adjustable wrench. I still need to have a couple sockets to do the motor mount. That's not a big deal. It's just, I think, a 15 mil. So a socket, extension, ratchet, this adjustable wrench, a jack, and then, of course, you're going to need a pair of jack stands as well. And it would be an advantage to have a wood block. But if you have the rubber pad on your jack still, that will work fine as well. So I also have some other stuff so I can show you a couple of things just to show you where an advantage in having specialty tools is, which is these two right here. And then we have the belt as well. So I'll explain all this in just a moment. First thing I need to do is remove the plastics from the engine. So I'm going to take the plastic off here, and then I'm going to take this intake, air cleaner box and tube out of the way so that you guys can see better, and it makes it a little easier to access things as well. So as you can see, this is the belt. It does go, in fact, around where this motor mount goes into. Now, you can just do these 3 bolts here and be able to slip the belt by, but for the ease of you guys being able to see things and see everything better, and it will actually help, if you're willing to take the nuts loose here, you can actually pull the whole mount out of place. But before you do that, you're going to want to get the vehicle on jack stands. Now, I am using my hoist, which you guys won't have just because of convenience. But you're going to get it on jack stands, and then we're going to use my normal jack here to jack up on the bottom of the motor. I'm going to show you the proper place to do that so you don't break anything as well here in a moment. Okay, so right now you're looking at the bottom of the engine bay here. There's the oil filter. We got the oil pan here, so the front of the vehicle is this way. Now, when you go to hold this thing up, there is a bracket here on this particular model because of the all-wheel drive and for the axle there. I think even the front-wheel drive ones have this bracket as well. But you want to try and be kind of oriented over in this area, as far over this way as possible. Now, if you're along the seam, it's going to be plenty strong. If for some reason you feel uncomfortable with that, you can always make a custom wooden bracket that kind of goes and cradles along here. But I don't feel at all it's necessary. What you can do is just use a chunk of 2x4 or some thick plywood or something and put it right here. And then once you have that sitting right there with the jack on it, you can go ahead and just bring it up a little bit. And you want to watch between the frame and the motor. And once you see that the motor, I just saw it barely moved a little bit, whereas the frame was stationary. Now, they both moved at the same time because obviously I'm pulling up on the motor mount. But once you see that very slight difference, and if you can't see it, just put a little tension on it. You don't have to put a lot, just a little bit. And once you get that little bit of a difference, then you can start working on the bolts up there. Now, if you notice that it feels like the bolts still have a lot of tension on them as you're loosening them, you can always jack this up a little bit. And that way you can get a little less tension on them or a little less weight on them. So let's go ahead and go to the top. So you can see there are 3 bolts here, 2 bolts there. What we're going to do first is we're going to take these 2 bolts loose, leaving the center bolt in. That way when it does have tension on it, it's only the center bolt and it's not a big deal. Now I'm going to go ahead and crack these free with this guy. And so as long as you leave that center one loose, you should be able to take these 2 and literally just loosen them up and take them out with your fingers. Once you have these 2 out, you can go ahead and go for that 3rd one and see how it responds. And once those are off, with the 15 mil head, then you can go to an 18 millimeter socket here, or head, and then take these guys loose. Now is the perfect time to go ahead and inspect your motor mount for any kind of cracks or damage that are severe. Now there is going to be a little bit of what looks like a crack around here, but this one actually looks really good. If you see any large cracks or you pull up on it like this, then that motor mount is junk and you're going to want to toss it. So that's if you pull the motor mount. You don't have to, like I said, you can weasel it out, but honestly the 2 bolts extra is kind of a whoopee-doo and worth taking out. Now we have full access to the belt. However, there is a little bit of an issue with getting the belt out, which is why I had these two ratchets sitting off to the side. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull one more ratchet over here. This one is a Matco ratchet. Now, you might think, oh, whoopee-doo, brand name, right? There is actually a difference. Now, this Matco ratchet versus a Snap-on ratchet, for instance, Snap-on has a thicker head here. The Matco has a very unique, thin design. And I'm going to compare it to a Craftsman because that's what a lot of people have. And you can see the difference in thickness is quite substantial. And that's what the Snap-on ones are also like. So no matter whether you pay fancy money for the thick ones, the brand names or not, different brand names have different things. Like a Snap-on, obviously that's like the Cadillac of tools. However, it's got a thicker head than this one, and this one is about the same price. So just because it's got a good price tag doesn't mean it's worth it. Now, when it comes to these, in this car, even this one, having a thinner head like it does, I cannot get it in here to access that tensioner. No matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to access that tensioner. So this thing is actually useless, which means this one is useless. Even this one is too thick and useless. And that's where a serpentine belt wrench tool comes in handy. And this guy here has these unique wrenches in here. Now, this one is particularly a Matco. It doesn't have to be Matco. I'll go ahead and link something on Amazon. I'll find something that will work in this scenario. But if you look at this and you look at the difference, this thing here is where the big difference is. It's a lot shorter right here because this is like cut off and shorter. So if a guy were to take and grind one of these down, it would probably work fine. But obviously I'm not going to do that to an expensive ratchet or even my cheap Craftsmans, which are nice to have for going on calls so I can lose them or whatever. Now, this one here has a very thin head, which is nice because you can actually go ahead and it gets in here no problem. It's nice and easy for it to slide in there. So I can use this one to take the belt free. However, if you don't want to buy a special tool, that's what we're really here for today. So that is why I have the adjustable wrench out. Now, this is going to be easier to access from down below, but I'm going to try it from up here just to see if I can do it. That way we don't have to pull the wheel off as part of this job as well. But what you're going to do is right here you can see this thing. It's got a taper right here, but right at the very bottom it's got an actual two parallel planes right at the bottom that you can take and put this guy or any wrench on for that matter, hook it up to it, and then use that to do the belt tensioner. Okay, so I got it to pull up. You guys can't see what I'm doing, but you can see that I can access the belt. Now, this would be a lot easier to get a hold of from down below. So I'll go ahead and pull the wheel off just to give you guys an idea of what that looks like as well, so you can decide for yourselves what the best option or tactic to tackle this is. So this just dawned on me, and I wanted to make sure I bring it up to you guys. If you guys want to be able to keep track of belt orientation, I had a tech that I used to work with show me this, and it's pretty easy thing to figure out. But to keep track of the belt itself, draw yourself a raw diagram or a quick diagram. That way you don't have to go looking it up later. What you can do is look at the belt in its current position. You can grab all the pulleys that are on there. Like this is going to be alternator is in the top left. Then we have a little idler. We can even draw a little arm with a wheel, right? And then we got the main crank. We got an idler here. We have an AC here. We have a water pump. And then we have another idler. And then what you do is you just go ahead and draw how the belt sits on there. So this one, it actually goes around like this, goes over here, then goes up here, down, then goes over this, around, and like that. That way when you pull the belt off, you have something to reference. That way you know and you won't lose track of it. Of course, this is a really crude sketch, but that's all you really need to do. So just a little hint in case you guys want to have a little help with that kind of a scenario as well. I'm going to give you one more option for at least removing the belt. Actually, two more options for removing the belt. If you're comfortable with the belt you bought, you can slice this thing. I'm not going to do that. I don't believe in that because I like to compare the length of this belt versus the belt I got, just in case the one I got is wrong somehow, like the parts store screwed up or there's something unique about this vehicle, something of that nature. And you can, if you're strong enough, take these things off without even using any kind of tool wrench. And if this tensioner doesn't have too much tension on it. Some of them are really tight for some reason, but most of them are not on these vehicles. And all you do is you pull up on this really hard. I held the pulley, and now I can change the belt. So no tools at all there, and I'm able to change this belt. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw the new one on quick, and then I'll bring you guys right back for showing you the wrench view from down below. So I have the new belt sitting here, and I'm going to go down below, like I said, and I'm going to show you guys how to get at this with this guy in order for me to put the belt on. I probably could muscle this thing, but I'm going to do it with the adjustable wrench just to make it a little easier. Okay, so I have the wrench sitting right there. It's actually hanging off that tensioner. I'm going to show you a couple views here so you can get an idea of what I'm doing. See the wrench sitting on there like that. Now, I do have this part of the belt off right now, so it's off of this pulley. Now, my arms are long enough for me to reach all the way around, get the wrench from way down here, and then be able to get the belt from up here. If your arms aren't long enough, you could always do the belt from down below. It's going to be a little bit tricky, especially if you go off like this pulley down here, for instance, but it can be done. Otherwise, you can do what I'm going to do for the sake of me holding the camera for you guys, which is right here. I have a little hook with a pull strap and another hook. And I'm going to go ahead and hook this onto that wrench right there, and then I'm just going to pull on it to pull the tensioner, to hold tension against the tensioner in order for me to put the belt on. Okay, so I did have to move the strap position. I had to go up towards the front here to the radiator support, but I doubt most people are going to be doing this way. Now I have the belt plenty loose that I can go ahead and pull this thing over there as long as all my cogs are in place. I think so. So now I can go ahead and put this guy right over this pulley here. That's the reason I choose these smooth pulleys to do that with, is because they're easier to push over. These ribbed ones, it's hard to get them over the ribs. But if you can do the ribbed one, go for it, I guess. It just seems to be a lot easier to do the smooth one. Everything seems to be in place. It's actually almost tight. I'm going to go ahead and pull the wrench out of the bottom. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I got the belt. I don't need any more information. But before you go, I do have a couple more hints that might be helpful if you're daring enough to do it. Now, there is a motor mount on the other side, and there's also going to be a torsion mount, and I believe it's in the back. Oh, no, it looks like it's in the front here on this one. So this vehicle has it in the front. There might be a rear one, too. But if you're daring enough, you can get a ratchet on here if you really want to, if you lift the motor up high enough. Now, I'll go ahead and start lifting the motor so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about and how to do that. Okay, so as you've seen, as the motor went up, it gave it more distance between the gap that's right here. So now a ratchet should technically fit in there. See, this one fits easily, and now even the Craftsman ratchet can weasel in there and get at it. So that is probably the best technique that you can use in order to get a ratchet in here, is just to lift it up more. Some people feel too uncomfortable. They feel like they're going to wreck hoses, wires, whatever, and that's why I showed the other version of how to do this as well. That's why I'm giving you so many options and capabilities of being able to do this job. So there you have it. The job's done with basic hand tools, with fancy hand tools, whatever tools you need. But the only thing you actually require is a 15 mil and a ratchet extension to get at those motor mounts. You're going to need a ratchet of some sort or a adjustable wrench, as you've seen. You're going to need a 8 mil or a screwdriver, whichever you prefer, to take this off. If you want to take this all out of the way like I did and give you room. You're going to need a 10 millimeter socket for the air box. There's one bolt holding that in place, and the rest of it is pretty much easy to take off and easy to do. And it can be done without pulling the wheel. All the options I gave you give you plenty of variability and capability if you're doing this at home and you have a limit of one of those things that I have mentioned. You can always resort to another option. So, lots of ways to do this at home. No reason to pay a shop $100 to put your belt in when it's something that you could pick up for $30 at your local parts store, or $15 online if you find the right place, and to go ahead and throw it in yourself. And it really doesn't take that long. Assuming inexperienced and doing this for the first time, it'll probably take you half hour to an hour, maybe, tops. So it's really not that bad of a job. Myself, I can do it in under 15 minutes if I'd like to, but of course I'm recording footage, so it takes me much longer. But with that, like, share, subscribe, and as always, hope to see you on another video. Thanks for watching.